Welcome to Season 2 of the Shekina Meditation Podcast, created by community members and friends of Shekina Garden in Pai, Thailand. Shekina communities are dedicated to creating free devotional spaces of Christian practice for spiritual seekers and travelers around the world. We post Christ-centered guided meditation each week to help you in your personal or small group practice. You can find episode show notes and other information at shekina.com.
Hello friends, we have just recently relaunched our Patreon community over at patreon.com/Shekina Meditation Podcast, and we're currently looking for new patrons to come along and join our community of supporters. Maybe that's you! For $5 or more a month, you can support this podcast and the community overheads that we have here at Shekina Garden in Pai. We're in a season at the moment where the little pond of contributors that we have here are not quite able to cover costs, so we're looking for some folks to come on board and help us keep the lights on. As a thank you, you'll get extras every month like some bonus meditations and other goodies. And starting now and for the month of September, anyone who joins the $5 tier and up, so any new patrons at any level, will receive a limited edition postcard designed by our very own Rachel Ford with a handwritten note of welcome from us here in Pai, just as a super heartfelt thank you for joining us. We'd love for you to consider coming on board even for $5 a month. It really makes such a big difference. So please head on over to patreon.com/Shekina Meditation Podcast to have a look and maybe join us. Thanks so much for considering it, friends.
Hi, this is Neil, and I'm here with Ro.
Hello, hello.
We are on Season 2, Episode 71, and as usual, our patrons over at patreon.com are supporting this podcast and making it happen. We are so thankful for your support through Patreon. It's one of the ways we keep our community running. You can find us at patreon.com/Shekina Meditation Podcast, and you can join us there for as little as $5 a month.
Thank you so much to the patrons who have been supporting this podcast and helping us with our community expenses. We so appreciate it. There's other ways that you can support this podcast too, like by rating and or reviewing it on iTunes or Apple Music or wherever else you listen, or maybe by sharing an episode with a friend via Spotify. You can just click that little share button and send it through, or by posting something on your social media. It really helps to get the word out about our little podcast and also helps us know that you appreciate what we're doing by putting this little sweet thing out into the world. So thank you so much. This episode we're about to meditate on together is an imagination meditation from Neil on Luke 19, verse 28 to 42. Neil will begin with some exercises just to help get ourselves ready in the body and the mind for a time of contemplation. And then he'll read slowly through the story with lots of pauses and time for reflection.
And after you have done meditating, we recommend you spend some time processing. If you're meditating with others, we recommend using a talking stick, passing it around the circle and allowing each person to have the chance to express something on what has happened for them during this time of the meditation. Or if you're meditating alone, you could do some journaling, or maybe make a voice note of some of your reflections. Some way to help process the experience. So let's begin. Find a comfortable position, something that you can sit in for a while. And I invite you to close your eyes and bring your attention to your breath, just breathing normally and comfortably, but just bring your focus to it. Feel the sensation of breathing. Take notice of the air as it moves in, maybe through your nose, and how your torso expands a little bit as you breathe in, and as you breathe out again. It's not very often that I think that we notice our breath, but it's always there, and if it stops, we notice that very quickly. But it is this thing that happens all the time that keeps us alive. It is part of living. And a way that we take the outside world and bring it into us for a moment. And then there's an exchange, and then breathing out again. And as you breathe, bring your awareness to the rest of your body, the other sensations that you feel in your body. The warmth of where you sit, the feeling of the breeze on your skin, and the clothes as well. How does it feel to be in your body right now? If you'd like to stretch a little bit, maybe there are some aches and pains or some stiff muscles that you would like to stretch a little, feel free. It's good to be comfortable. Or perhaps you would like to breathe in a bit deeper into those areas of your body that do feel a bit tight or sore, to help them relax. And let's shift now from inside our body to outside our body, to the sounds around us. What can you hear? Perhaps you might imagine in your mind what that sound looks like. How is it being made? By what? What's the most distant sound? And what is the most nearest sound? The purpose of these exercises, of sensations in the body and the sounds around us, is to quieten our minds and our hearts, to bring some silence, some quietude to our thoughts that may be always running, or our emotions that may be always ebbing and flowing. But sometimes that's difficult to do. And so I'd like to encourage you to imagine that you are a bird sitting on a low branch in a forest. Below you there is a stream. And as we've come from different experiences of the day so far, imagine that in this stream there flows your thoughts and emotions, things that have come from the day so far, things that you hope to do or expect to do in the day as the day moves on. Or perhaps thoughts from long ago, memories, or emotions. Imagine that they are flowing in this stream. And as you, as a bird sitting on the branch, notice these things flow underneath you, and then slowly they flow away. And then another one comes, flows underneath you, and then it flows away, out of sight. Let's just let these things flow away, out of sight and out of mind, until you're left with clear water. If you find a thought, a feeling comes back, then let it just flow in the stream below you and then flow away again. And we're left with quiet, with calm, with a clear mind and a clear heart. And into this calm and clarity, I would encourage you to acknowledge the presence of the divine. One way that this style of meditation has been described is listening to the words of God in the presence of God. So I encourage you to acknowledge that presence of God. And as we shift now to the scripture, and ask you to engage your imaginations again, for we are travelling over great distances and great times to an ancient land, an ancient people. To a crowd of people, specifically, who have been following Jesus for some time now, for a few years. This crowd has slowly increased in number, and Jesus is leading them towards the capital of Israel, Jerusalem. How do you imagine this crowd looks like? They are very likely on foot. Perhaps hundreds of people. And as our story begins, Jesus has just finished teaching the crowd as they walk. What does Jesus look like? And where are you in this scene? Are you one of the disciples, one of the followers, or one of the crowd? Someone watching it pass by, this group of people, or maybe a bird flying overhead. Imagine yourself somewhere in this scene as it unfolds. As Jesus had said these things, he went on ahead, going up to Jerusalem. As he approached two small towns, Bethpage and Bethany, that were only a few miles from Jerusalem, he paused at a place called the Mount of Olives. What do you see? What does this Mount of Olives look like in your mind? How do you imagine these two little villages next to each other? And Jerusalem in the distance. Jesus then chose two of his disciples and sent them, saying to them, "Go to the village ahead of you, and as you enter, you will find a colt, a young donkey, tied there, which no one has ever ridden. Untie it and bring it here. If anyone asks you, 'Why are you untying it?' tell him, 'The Lord needs it.'" The two disciples went and found it just as Jesus had told them. As they were untying the colt, its owner asked them, "Why are you untying the colt?" They replied, "The Lord needs it." And he let them go. What do you see? What do you suppose these two folks, these two disciples, are thinking and feeling? The two disciples brought it to Jesus. They threw their cloaks onto the colt and they put Jesus onto it. What do you see? As Jesus went along riding the colt, people spread their cloaks onto the road. Others began to cut down palm branches and wave them. When Jesus came near the place where the road goes down from the Mount of Olives, the whole crowd of disciples began joyfully to praise God in loud voices for all the miracles that they had seen. Blessed is the King who comes in the name of the Lord, they shouted. Peace in heaven and glory in the highest. Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Peace in heaven and glory in the highest. What do you see? How has the feeling changed in this situation? Some of the Pharisees, the religious rulers, the social elite were there among the crowd. And they said to Jesus, "Teacher, rebuke your disciples. Tell them to be quiet." "I tell you," he replied, "if they keep quiet, even the stones will cry out." As Jesus approached Jerusalem and saw the city, he wept over it and said, "If you, even you, had only known on this day what would bring you peace. But now it is hidden from your eyes. What do you make of this scene, of these words? This is where our story ends, but I encourage you to think back over the events. How did they make you feel? Or were there any questions that came up? And what do you suppose is the meaning of this story and the significance? And what might the divine be wanting to tell you? Let's take some time now to reflect. What does the story mean to you? And as this part of the meditation comes to an end, you might like to offer up a prayer of receiving or a prayer of gratitude for this time, whatever it is that may have come up for you. If you'd like, you can be thankful or acknowledge receiving, whatever seems appropriate for you. Let's bring our attention back to our breath when you're ready. Bringing our attention back to our breath. Maybe taking a few deeper breaths to come back into our bodies. Maybe you'd like to wriggle your toes, shift around a little bit. Take another breath and become aware of the sounds around you and the people around you. As you breathe a bit more, in your own time, and as a sign of rejoining the circle, you can open your eyes and we can move on to the sharing circle.
Thank you for joining today. There will be a new guided meditation available each week, so don't forget to subscribe to iTunes or sign up for our newsletter to get podcasts delivered to your inbox at www.shekinacommunity.com/podcast newsletter. Also, you can rate or review on iTunes or sign up as a patron at patreon.com/Shekina Meditation Podcast. Have a beautiful week. Many blessings to you.